Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more in the Buddha's words. We're beginning a new chapter, so we're getting an introduction here. Yeah, chapter 5. With that, let's see. How far is 54? Not too bad. Anyway, let's jump into this. In his account of the Noble Quest, the Buddha says that when he gazed out upon the world soon after his enlightenment, he saw the sentient beings are like lotus flowers at various stages of growth within a pond, while some beings are like lotuses at or near the surface of the pond, capable of awakening merely by being exposed to his world transcending teachings. The vast majority of people who encounter the Dhamma are like the lotuses growing deep below the surface. These lotuses benefit from the sunlight and use its energy to sustain their life, yet still need time to reach the surface and blossom. So too the great multitude of people who hear the Buddha's teachings and establish faith must still nurture their wholesome qualities with the radiant energy of the Dhamma before their mind streams become mature enough to attain direct realization. This process ordinarily requires many lives, and thus such people have to take a long-term approach to their spiritual development. While practicing the way of liberation, they must avoid a rebirth in the unfortunate realms, and with successive rebirths blessed with material security, happiness, and opportunities for further spiritual progress. These benefits are the enhancing conditions for spiritual development in the Dhamma come about by the acquisition of puna, or merit, a word that signifies the capacity of wholesome action to yield beneficial results within the cycle of rebirths. According to the Buddha's teachings, the cosmos, with its many realms of sentient existence, is governed at all levels by immutable laws: physical, biological, psychological, and ethical. The process by which sentient beings migrate from one state of existence to another is likewise lawful. It is regulated by a law that works in two principal ways. First, it connects your actions with a particular realm of rebirth that corresponds to our actions. The second, it determines the relations between our actions and the quality of our experience within the particular realm into which we have been reborn. The governing factor in these policies, the factor that makes the entire process a lawful one, is a force called kama, or in Sanskrit, karma. The word kama literally means action, but technically it refers to the volitional action. As the Buddha says, it is volition, etana, that I call kama, or having willed satayitva. One acts by body, speech, and mind. Kama thus denotes deeds and originate from volition. Each volition may remain purely mental, generating mental karma that occurs as thoughts, plans, and desires, and it may come to express outwardly through manifest bodily and verbal actions. It may seem that our deeds, once performed, cherish and vanish without leaving behind any traces apart from their visible impact on other people and our environment. However, according to the Buddha, all morally determinate volitional actions create a potential to bring forth results, vipaka, or fruits, phala, that correspond to the ethical quality of those actions. This capacity of our deeds to produce the morally appropriate results is what is meant by karma. Our deeds generate karma. A potential to produce fruits that correspond to their own intrinsic tendencies. Then, when internal and external conditions are suitable, the karma ripens and produces the appropriate fruits. In ripening, the karma rebounds upon us for good and for harm, depending on the moral quality of the original action. This may happen either later in the same life in which the action was done, in the next life, or in some distant future life. The one thing that is certain is that as long as we remain within samsara, any stored up karma of ours will be capable of ripening so long as it has not yet produced its due results. On the basis of its ethical quality, the Buddha distinguishes karma into two major categories: the unwholesome, akusala, and the wholesome, kusala. Unwholesome karma is action that is spiritually detrimental to the agent, morally reprehensible, and potentially reproductive of an unfortunate rebirth and painful results. The criterion for judging an action to be unwholesome is its underlying motives, the roots from which it springs. There are three unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, and delusion. From these, there arises a wide variety of secondary defilements, states such as anger, hostility, envy, selfishness, arrogance, pride, presumption, and laziness. And from the root defilements and secondary defilements arise defiled actions. Wholesome karma, on the other hand, is action that is spiritually beneficial and morally commendable. It is action that ripens in happiness and good fortune. Its underlying motives are the three wholesome roots: non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, which may be expressed more positively as generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. Whereas actions springing from an unwholesome roots are necessarily bound to the world of repeated birth and death, actions springing from the wholesome roots may be of two kinds: mundane and world transcending. The mundane, lokia, wholesome actions have the potential to produce a fortunate rebirth and pleasant results within the round of rebirths. The world transcending or supra mundane, lokutra, wholesome actions, namely the karma generated by developing the Noble Eightfold Path and other aids to enlightenment, lead to enlightenment and liberation from the round of rebirths. This is the karma that dismantles the entire process of karmic causation. The correlation between karma and its results is indicated in a general way in text chapter 5, section 1, part 1. This sutta refers to the unwholesome action of dark karma and mundane wholesome action as bright karma. It also refers to the type of karma that is both dark and bright. Strictly speaking, this does not denote a single action that simultaneously partakes of both unwholesome and wholesome characteristics. Technically, such a thing is impossible, for an action must be one or the other. The combined karma refers to the conduct of the person who inherently engages in both unwholesome and wholesome behavior. Finally, the sutta speaks of a fourth type of karma that is neither dark nor bright. This is the action of developing the Noble Eightfold Path, the wholesome world transcending karma. It cannot be emphasized strongly enough that for early Buddhism, an understanding and acceptance of this principle of karma and its fruit is an essential component of right view. Right view has two aspects: the world-bound or mundane aspect, which pertains to life within the world, and the supermundane or world-transcending aspect, which pertains to the path to liberation. The world-transcending right view includes the understanding that the Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, and the three marks of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. For early Buddhism, this world-transcending right view cannot be taken up in isolation from the mundane right view. Rather, it presupposes and depends upon the sound support of mundane right view, which means a firm conviction in the validity of the law of karma and its unfolding through the process of rebirth. To accept the law of karma entails a radical transformation in our understanding of our relationship to the world. The twin doctrines of karma and rebirth enable us to see that the world in which we live is in important respects an external reflection of the internal cosmos of the mind. This does not mean that the external world can be reduced to a menial projection by the way proposed by certain types of philosophical idealism. However, taken in conjunction, these two doctrines do show that the conditions under which we live closely correspond to the karmic tendencies of our mind. The reason why a living being is reborn into a particular realm is because in a previous life that being has generated the karma or volitional action that leads to rebirth into that realm. Thus, in the final analysis, all the realms of existence have been formed, fashioned, and sustained by the mental activity of living beings. As the Buddha says, for beings obstructed by ignorance and hindered by craving, karma is the field. Conscientiousness, the all beings obstructed by ignorance and hindered by craving, Karma in the field is the field, consciousness the seed, and the craving the moisture. For consciousness to be established in a new realm of existence, either inferior, middling, or superior. The next selection, text chapter 5, part 1, section 2, draws a finer distinction among the types of wholesome and unwholesome karma. The text enumerates 10 primary instances of each class. There are called respectively unrighteous conduct, conduct not in accordance with the Dhamma, and righteous conduct, conduct in accordance with the Dhamma. But they are not usually known as the 10 pathways of unwholesome and wholesome karma. The 10 are subdivided by way of the 3 doors of action: body, speech, and mind. Taking the unwholesome first, there are 3 kinds of bodily misconduct: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. 4 kinds of verbal misconduct: lying, malicious speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter or gossip. And 3 kinds of mental misconduct: covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. The 10 courses of wholesome action and their exact opposites: abstinence from the 3 kinds of bodily misconduct, abstinence from the 4 kinds of verbal misconduct, and non-covetousness, goodwill, and right view. According to the Sutta, the 10 types of unwholesome karma are the reason that beings are born into the bad destinations after death. The 10 types of wholesome karma are the reason that beings are reborn in the good destinations after death. As the Sutta shows, the 10 types of wholesome karma are the support not only for the heavenly rebirth, but also for the destruction of the taints, the attainment of liberation. The concluding paragraphs of this sutta give us a brief survey of Buddhist cosmology. The Buddhist cosmos is divided into 3 broad realms: the sense sphere realm, Kamadhatu; the form realm, Rupadhatu; and the formless realm, Arapadhatu, each comprising a range of subsidiary planes. The sense sphere realm, our realm, is so called because the beings reborn here are strongly driven by sensual desire. The realm is divided into 2 levels: the bad destinations and the good destinations. The bad destinations, or states of misery, apaya, are 3 in number: the hells, states of intense torment; the animal kingdom; and the sphere of spirits, Petivisaya, beings afflicted with incessant hunger, thirst, and other sufferings. These are the realms of retribution for the 10 unwholesome paths of karma. The good destinations in the sense sphere realm are the human world and the 6 sensual heavenly planes. The latter are the devas in heaven of the 4 great kings who are presided over by four powerful devas, namely the four great kings. The Tavatimsa devas, presided over by Saka, a devotee of the Buddha who is faithful but prone to negligence. The Yamadevas, the Dhammas, or devas of the Tusita heaven, the abode of a bodhisattva before his final birth. The Nimanarati devas, the gods who delight in creating, and the Paranimatavasavati devas, the gods who control what is created by others. The karmic cause for rebirth into the good destinations of the sense sphere realm is the practice of the 10 courses of wholesome action. In the form realm, the grosser types of material form are absent. Its denizens, known as Brahmas, enjoy bliss, power, luminosity, and vitality far superior to the beings in the sense sphere realm. The form realm consists of 16 planes. These are the objective counterparts of the four yanas. Yanas, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Attainment of the first jhana leads to the rebirth among Brahma's assembly, the ministers of Brahma, and the Nahabrahmas, according to whether it is developed to an inferior, middling, or superior degree. The second jhana, attained in the same 3 degrees, leads respectively to rebirth among the devas of limited radiance, of measureless radiance, and of streaming radiance. The third jhana, attained in the same 3 degrees, leads respectively to rebirth among the devas of limited glory, of measureless glory, and of refulgent glory. The fourth jhana ordinarily leads to the rebirth among the devas of great fruit, but if developed with a feeling of disgust for perception, it will conduce to rebirth among the non-percipient beings who lack perception. The form realm also comprises 5 planes reserved exclusively for the rebirth of non-returners, called the pure abodes: Avya, Atapa, Sudasa, Sudasi, and Akanata. Akanita. Woo. In each of the subtle form planes, the lifespan is said to be of enormous duration and to increase significantly with each higher plane. We'll go ahead and end this here, though, and finish off the introduction in the next episode, because, yeah, we're already about 25 minutes in. But, yeah, we're getting a forepeak on... We're really getting into the idea of the Buddhist cosmos. We haven't really delved into the Buddhist cosmos so much. We've delved into the teachings, the ideas, and some of the consequences of actions, behaviors, and perceptions. But we're getting a bit more into the mystic parts. All these planes, devas. And remember, the devas are more or less your god. Kama's your karma. So yeah, we're getting into some of the interesting parts here. Going quite a bit beyond what we think of as earthly. But yeah, we'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.